I walked into a room that didn't know my name. I sat at the table like I already made my claim. The men around me measured me the way they measure things, by where you came from, who you know, what your silence brings. I let them have their calculations, let them size me up. I've been the unknown quantity before, I know this cup. New territory, same man. Every room I enter is a new but equal chance. New territory, same code. I don't change the way I walk to fit somebody's role. I came here with nothing except everything I've earned. New territory, watch what happens when the new man learns. I didn't ask permission for the seat that I required. Didn't introduce myself through men they had admired. I made one deal, one clean deal, and let the deal speak. By the second week they knew my name, and by the third my week. Respect is not a thing you're given in a room like this. It accumulates with everything you don't dismiss. New territory, same man. Every room I enter is an equal playing chance. New territory, same code. The map is new but everything I am I own and hold. The men who ran this ground before ran it on assumption that nobody new would walk in here with this level of preparation, of patience, of readiness, of not needing to be known. Let the work announce me, I'll silence set the tone. I am not here to take what's yours. I am here because this is mine. New territory, same man. The territory changes, I remain. New territory, same code. Every new room is just another road I own. New territory, new territory. I was born in the dark before I knew what light was for. In rooms where men worked tired and walls held quiet wars. No silver in the bloodline, no safety net below. Just a fire in my chest and nowhere else to go. They say that where you start in life is where you're meant to end. That blood will tell on everything, and fate will never bend. But I have watched the ceilings fall on men who thought they stood above. And I have seen the flaws become the thrones of those who chose to shove. I am not what I was given.
I am not what I was given.
I am what I chose to take.
I am what I chose to take.
Every version of myself before was practice for what I would make. I was born in the dark, but I will not die there. I was built from the cold, but I carry the fire. Every scar on my hands is a chapter of proof that a man who wants nothing can never take you. Born in the dark,
Born in the dark,
born to rise. I wore the same clothes for a season, not from shame but choice. I was saving every fragment, building power, finding voice. I studied every man above me, how he walked and where he slipped. And I waited till I knew the game before I made my trip. They say you cannot choose your beginning,
but you own your middle page
and I have written every chapter of my life
in careful read.
I was born in the dark,
Born in the dark,
but I will not die there.
will not die there.
I was built from the cold,
Built from the cold,
but I carry the fire. Every scar on my hands
born in the dark,
is a chapter of proof
chapter of proof
that a man who wants nothing can never take you. To every man who's standing at the bottom looking up, to every hand that's empty and every emptied cup, to every voice that told you that your blood decide your worth, let them watch,
just let 'em watch.
let them see what you're worth. You were born for more than what they gave you at the start. You were built from harder things. Let it show the world your heart. I was born in the dark,
Born in the dark,
and I carried my own light.
born in the dark,
I was written off before I started,
born in the dark,
and I own the night. I was born in the dark,
I was born in the dark,
but I will not die there.
but I will not die there.
I was built from the cold,
Built from the cold,
but I carry the fire.
I carry the fire.
Every scar on my hands
Scar on my head,
is a chapter of proof.
chapter of proof.
Every road that they closed, oh, I made into a truth. Born in the dark,
Born in the dark,
born to rise, born to prove that the dark made me. could send a word back to the boy I used to be, standing at the corner of the life he couldn't see. I wouldn't change the hard parts, I'd just change the frame. I'd tell him what looks like destruction has another name. I'd tell him trust the silence more than anything they say. I'd tell him the men who leave the quickest, let them go today. I tell him build your patience like you're building stone on stone, and learn the difference between being lonely and alone. Letter to a younger man, didn't know the plan, who thought the storm was punishment instead of reprimand, for something greater waiting on the other side of fear. Letter to a younger man, I wish that you could hear. I tell him every enemy will teach you something true. I tell him the ones who doubt your work, and let them review. I tell him love the people who will look you in the eye, and walk beside the darkness without asking you to lie. Most of all, I tell him you're gonna be tested in ways that don't seem fair, in ways that feel like ending. Hold on, just hold on. What's coming is worth everything that's going. As alone as you believed, you were never as broken as you feared. Everything you needed, you already had. You just couldn't see it from in there. Letter to a younger man who carried more than he should, who thought the weight meant something wrong when it meant something good, who learned that scars are just the proof that you were here and real. Letter to a younger man, from the man you had to build. My grandfather came with nothing but his name. He built his world with both his hands through fire and shame. They called our family crooked, called our blood a curse. But every man I've met in church has done far worse. He told me on his deathbed, with a candle burning low, there are two kinds of honor, son, the kind they see and the kind you know. There is blood on the marble where the innocent have knelt. There are prayers in the darkness for the hands that mercy dealt. We are not the villains that they wrote about in books. We are fathers, we are brothers, they just never thought to look. Blood on the marble. I named my firstborn after every man I had to break. I kept a record of each choice and what was truly at stake. Not proud of every chapter, not ashamed of what I am. A man is what his circumstances built him. Understand. They light their candles for the saints and spit upon our doors, but behind their holy silence they have done far worse than war. There is blood on the marble where the innocent have knelt. There are prayers in the darkness for the hands that mercy dealt. We are not the villains that they wrote about in books. We are fathers, we are brothers, they just never thought to look. My father said, loyalty is not a word, it is a life. Silence is not weakness, it is a sharpened knife. And a man who breaks his word has already died. He just hasn't stopped breathing yet inside. We bled for this ground, we prayed for this life, and still they called us animals, and still they sharpen the knife. There is blood on the marble where the innocent have knelt. There are prayers in the darkness for the hands that mercy dealt. We are not the villains that they wrote about in books. We are fathers, we are brothers. Take a closer look. Blood on the marble. Blood on the marble. Miller's gonna close on Friday, and they're selling off the stools. The jukebox and the back booth, where we learn the old rules of how men talk to other men when nobody's performing, of how you hold a glass and what the silence in between is for. I've been coming here since I was just too young to be here. Sat beside my father once and watched him with the men. They talked in half sentences and finished each other's thinking. And I took notes on everything and vowed to learn it then. Last round at Miller's for the bar that built a code. Last round at Miller's before they close and selling for. I raise a glass to everyone who ever sat in this particular light. Last round at Miller's, and one more after that tonight. Every man who ever needed somewhere he could be himself without performance or agenda or the grinding of the gears. Found a bar stool at the corner and a bartender who'd listen, and walked out a little cleaner for the time he'd spent in here. I know it's just a building, I know it's just a room, I know the men who made it are themselves almost all gone. But some rooms hold the memory of what happened in them, and Miller's held the kind of men I wanted to become. Last round at Miller's, last glass for what this place has been. Last round at Miller's for every man who came in from the rain, for every honest conversation and every quiet understood. Last round at Miller's for the bar that made us good. I didn't celebrate when it began to fall. I made a cup of tea and read the morning papers. I noted what had happened, what the numbers showed, and poured a second cup for later. I have been waiting for this particular arithmetic for longer than most people keep a patience. And the satisfaction is exactly what I thought, but quieter, and nothing like elation. Watch it fall. Everything they built, watch it fall. Every stone and stilt. I don't need applause, I don't need to see it close. Watch it fall from the window of everything it cost. They overreached, that was the first mistake. The second was forgetting what they'd started. The third was building everything on what they'd taken from a man who never once in 7 years departed from the plan, from the patience, from the point. Yeah, and you don't destroy a man's empire by attacking it directly. You wait until the weight of it becomes the thing that ends it. Watch it fall. Everything they stole, watch it fall. Every page for all. I don't need the credit, I don't need the name on stone. Watch it fall from the window of everything I own. I feel no rage about this. The rage was used as fuel years ago. What I feel right now is something closer to an accountant looking at a final row of numbers that balances. Watch it fall, the architecture of a lie. I'm not at the door waiting, I'm not making a sound. Watch it fall from the window and let it settle in the ground. I walk through winters that would break a weaker man. Across the frozen fields of everything I had. They took the fire first, and then they took the light, and left me with the cold to figure out the night. I learned to eat the silence like it was a meal. I learned to treat the loneliness like something I could feel. Not as a wound, but as a teacher, as a guide. The emptiness outside was smaller than the one inside. This is the way to winter, that no summer fully heals. This is the price of standing when every bone just wants to kneel. But I am still here, still here, still standing in the cold. And everything they tried to break just made me iron and old. The men who left me for the dead have built their lives. They drink their wine at tables lit with candles and with lights. I don't begrudge them warmth, I just refuse to freeze. I built my fire slowly from the splinters of their trees. They said survive the winter and you'll understand the spring. I'll never chase the flowers, I just learned what cold can bring. This is the way to winter, that no summer fully heals. This is the price of standing when every bone just wants to kneel. But I am still here, still here, still standing in the cold. And everything they tried to bury just turned to iron and gold. You don't know what a man is made of till you watched him freeze alone. You don't know what a man is worth till you watched him build a home from nothing, from ash, from the ruins of a life they said was done. I am still here, after everything. I am still here. I walked through winters that would break a weaker man, and I am still walking. Everybody's in a hurry to collect what's owed to them. They bang on doors and raise their voice and wonder why they can't get in. But I have learned a different kind of currency in life, kind that earns its interest slow, much sharper than a knife. My grandfather said, boy, the Lord works slow, and the devil has more patience than you'll ever know. The devil has patience, he don't rush his move. He sits across the table with a stillness you can't groove. He pours his drink real easy, he don't show you what he knows. And when you think you want it all, that's when the devil shows. I watched the man who ruined me build 5 years of pride. I watched him sleep in comfort, watched him laugh inside. I watched him till I knew the shape of every wall he made. Then I picked the one foundation, and I let it all cascade. They call me patient, call me cold, they say I don't react. I say I'm just a student of the art of striking back. The devil has patience, he don't rush his move. He sits across the table with a stillness you can't groove. He pours his drink real easy, he don't show you what he knows. And when you think you want it all, that's when the devil shows. There's a chair at every table that nobody wants to take. It sits at the head of the room, and it don't negotiate. I took that chair at 30, I've been sitting in it since. And every man who thought to move me learned the cost of arrogance. Thought you had more time, you thought I wasn't watching. The devil has patience, boy, and patience just ran out. He just showed his mood. Everything you built up was built from me to you. She didn't try to change me. That was what undid me. She didn't need me different. She just needed me there. And somewhere in the not being needed to be better, I became the closest thing to honest I could bear. She laughed at things that other people cataloged as tragic. She found the light inside the rooms I had given up as dark. And whether she intended it or whether it was accidental, she left the kind of mark that doesn't come apart. The mark she left is in the way I hear piano now. The mark she left is in the way I make the coffee somehow. The mark she left is not a wound, it's more a watermark. The kind that only shows when you hold the page up to the dark. The mark she left. I've met women since who were extraordinary in their own way. I've been beside the kind of grace that any man would want. But there's a room inside a man that only fits one furniture. And she arranged it, and it stayed exactly what she meant. I'm not broken by this, I wanna be precise. I'm not walking through my life looking backward. I'm just honest enough to name the thing she is irreplaceable. Not because no one else is good enough, but because he was exactly the specific shape of something I needed, that I hadn't known I needed. She showed it to me, and that kind of thing doesn't go away. It just becomes part of the architecture. The mark she left is the reason certain music stops me cold. The mark she left is the sentence I am never fully told. The mark she left was not a curse, it was a kind of gift. The mark she left is the best and hardest thing I carry every day. Every day. She wore the kind of silence that a man could live inside. She never asked me what I did or told me where to hide. She poured my coffee every morning like the world was clean, and loved me past the edges of the places I had been. I told her she deserved a better world than mine to walk. She said she chose me, no, and we never spoke of it again in talk. Ivory and ash, that's what we were. A beautiful collision of the clean and the obscure. She was the light I never felt I'd earned the right to hold, and I was the fire that kept her warm and left her in the cold. Ivory and ash. I missed the night she needed me. There was business to attend. I told myself I'd make it right. That isn't how it ends. She left no letter, left no word, just a gardenia on the sill, the kind she always wore in spring. I keep it with me still. A man can rule a city, hold the dark within his fist, but can't explain the warmth that comes from being truly missed. Ivory and ash, that's what we were. A beautiful collision of the clean and the obscure. She was the light I never felt I'd earned the right to hold, and I was the fire that kept her warm and left her in the cold. I have stood in rooms where powerful men wept. I have never understood it till tonight. I have signed my name to things I can't take back, but nothing cost as much as losing her to this life. She was the only thing I built that mattered, and I let the work destroy the one thing that was real. Ivory and ash, ivory and ash, that's what we were. That's what we were. A beautiful destruction of the clean against the blur. She was the grace I never felt I'd earned the right to keep, and I am the winter she deserved to never have to meet. Ivory and ash. Ivory and ash.
The city never sleeps, it just shifts into a different register. The lights don't go out, they just change who they're speaking to. At 3 a.m. the honest city shows you what it really is, without the crowd to dress it up in something close to true. The man below is walking like he's carrying a conversation that ended wrong and hasn't found a place to settle yet. The window in the building across glows amber and consistent. Some kind of work or insomnia, or something to forget. City at 3 a.m. That's when the mask comes off. City at 3 a.m. When everything that's soft has gone to bed and left behind the version that is real. City at 3 a.m. is how a city feels when it's not performing. I've watched the city from above on nights I couldn't sleep it off. On nights the weight of everything I carried needed altitude. And every time I stood here in the dark above the ordinary, the city told me something I could never quite conclude. Maybe this is what it means to understand a thing. You have to see it when it isn't watching. You have to catch it in the hours it doesn't know you're looking, and love it for the truth of it, not the performance. City at 3 a.m. I know you better than the day. City at 3 a.m. when you forget to put away the complicated underneath, the commerce and the noise. City at 3 a.m. is a man without a pose. Father told me never draw your gun unless you mean to end it. And every man deserves one chance to leave before you send it. I sat across from men who begged and men who tried to lie. I poured them all a glass of wine and looked them in the eye. This life was never what I chose, it chose me from the start. I learned to keep my hands real clean by hardening my heart. I am the last of a dying kind, a gentleman with a criminal mind. I live by codes that the world forgot. I give what's earned and I take what's not. last gentleman. They call it organized, but there ain't nothing organized in grief. When you bury men who trusted you and call yourself a chief. I iron my suit every morning like my father showed me how. Some rituals remind you what you swore and what you vowed. They see the suit, they see the cane, they see the silver ring. They never see the boy who lost everything to be this thing. I am the last of a dying kind, a gentleman with a criminal mind. I live by codes that the world forgot. I give what's earned and I take what's not. The last gentleman. You wanna know the cost of all this power? Every quiet room, every sleepless hour, every name I carry like a stone beneath my chest, every deal I made just to outlast the rest. I gave everything and still they wanted more. I bled on every floor and still they called for war. Give what's hurt and I take what's not. The last gentleman. You were the first man I admired, who wasn't just a fantasy. You had the way of reading rooms I wanted you to teach to me. I watched how you moved between the men who had the power and the door. I studied every choice you made. I wanted to become more. Then I started being more, and you became a different thing. And the lesson you taught best of all was what a threatened teacher brings. The teacher's sin is fear of what the student has become. The teacher's sin is burning what he spent his lifetime building from. gave me every tool I have, and then you used them against me. The teacher's sin is teaching, son, and then becoming the enemy. I think about the afternoon you told them what I planned. I think about the calculation, how deliberate, how planned. You smiled at me 2 days before and called me your best work, then dismantled every structure I had built, deliberate and curt. I don't know what you feared most, that I'd surpass or that I'd fail. Either way, the ending was the same. The teacher turned the nail. The teacher's sin is fear of what the student has become. The teacher's sin is burning everything the lessons had begun. I won't be angry here. You don't deserve my anger. You deserve something much worse, which is my absolute indifference. Everything you built in me, I used, just not for you. The teacher's sin is what he did. The student's response is this: I built a world from what you gave me, and you're not on the list.
Put on my coat this morning with a different kind of weight. Said goodbye to every room and every promise running late. The photographs still on the wall, I left them where they stood. Some things deserve to stay behind in the only life that's good. A man who's done what I have done don't get a clean exit. He gets a quiet morning and a coat, and that's about the size of it. One last coat, one last door, one last look at everything I said I'd die for. One last night of knowing who I was and what I'd been. One last coat on the back of a man the world will not see again. I left the keys on the counter by the coffee I won't drink. I stood beside the window for a moment just to think about the life that could have been if certain roads had turned, and whether I was leaving or just going where I'd earned. You don't mourn the life
life you lived. You only mourn the life you missed. And mine was never on the list. One last coat,
One last coat,
one last door,
one last door.
one last look at everything I said I'd die for. One last night of knowing who I was and what I'd been. One last coat on the back of a man the world will not see again. I'm not running, I'm not hiding, I'm just done with the particular geometry of this particular life. Some men go out with fire, some go out with a name. I'm going out the back way, which is roughly how I came. One last coat,
One last coat,
one last door,
one last door.
one last look at everything I bled and lived for. One morning without anyone to hold me to my past. One last coat on the back of a man who chose to leave at last.
There came in the winter when they thought I was at my lowest. They came with the assumption that the season had me bent. They walked into the story they had written about me in advance and found a different chapter than the one they thought they meant. I let them make their offer, watched them lay it on the table. I let them make their case for what they thought I couldn't fight. I let them feel the fullness of the moment they'd been building. Then I took the offer, folded it, and said, not tonight. The night they tried is the night that built the ceiling. The night they tried is the night that changed the dealing. They came for what they thought was broken, found what had been forged. The night they tried was the last night they had that kind of told a story different to the men who weren't there. I heard they made it something closer to what they prepared. But every man who was in that room knows what the silence said. When they left without the thing they came to take from me instead. There are moments in a man's life that become the line between version before and the
version that remains. That night was mine, and I'll tell you what I felt. Not victory, not relief, just confirmation of I already knew about myself. You came for everything I built. You're left with nothing but the knowledge that you never had the became the night I understood. The night they tried to take from me what's mine for good. They showed me what I'm made of by testing what they thought was soft. The night they tried is the night that paid off. She poured my coffee without asking how I took it. After the second morning, she just knew. She never asked me where I'd been the night before. Just moved around the kitchen, quiet and true. She found the things I kept inside, the lining of my coat. She put them back and never said a word. Some women run from what they find inside a man like me. She was the only one who stayed, and that I heard. She knew what I was, and she stayed anyway. She knew what the night's cost, and she greeted every day. She never asked me to be something I was not. She just loved the broken parts of me that the rest of the world forgot. She knew what I was. I tried to build a wall between her and the work I did, pretend that there were two of me. She saw right through it. She said one night while I was leaving, "Come back in one piece." I said, "I always do." She said, "So far."
never deserved the grace of a woman who understood the complication. And I would burn every empire I built to have her back for one more morning. She knew what I was, and she loved me past the edge of it. She knew what the cost was, and she paid it, never said it. I built a world that had no room for what she gave. She knew what I was. She knew, and she stayed.
I have been silent for 60 years about the things that cost me sleep. I kept my mouth shut in the rooms where men decided what to keep. I watched them build their stories on the rubble of the truth, and I stayed quiet, God forgive me, from the day I lost my youth. 60 years of silence, that's a long time not to speak. 60 years of carrying what the honest call antique. I don't regret the living, I regret the things unsaid. 60 years of silence, son, follow someone else instead. Oh, I had a family that loved me, and a family they never knew. I had a life inside the daylight, and a life in darker hues. I convinced myself that keeping quiet was protecting everyone, but silence is a selfish thing when it's the only thing you've done. 60 years of silence, that's a weight no man should own. 60 years of keeping every secret carved in stone. The things I never told her, the names I never said. 60 years of silence, son, don't end up here instead. I'm telling you this now, not because it saves me, but because you're standing where I stood at your age, and you still have the choice that I didn't take. Keep one person in this world you tell the truth to, just one. Don't be like me. Keeping weight that wasn't fair. I built a wall of nothing, and I called it discipline. 60 years of silence, son. Don't let that be your hymn.
Seven years is a number until it becomes your life. Seven years is a sentence until it becomes your knife. That carves out everything that's soft and leaves the hardest grain. 7 years of who you were, becoming who remains. 7 years I counted ceilings. 7 years I learned the floor. 7 years I built a silence. 7 years and then one door. And what came through that door was not the man who went inside. 7 years don't just pass through you. 7 years decide. The man outside kept living. The world adjusted without me. I studied it through letters and what the absence of them told me. The ones who wrote in the beginning were not the ones who wrote at the end. 7 years is a test of contracts. Most of them, they bend. I don't ask for sympathy for what I did to earn the years. A man owns his decisions, including the ones that cost him here. But I'll tell you what the years gave back that no one talks about enough. They gave me the ability to sit still without going soft. Not angry, just true. 7 years in the dark, and I came out knowing how to see in it. 7 years I counted mornings. 7 years I learned myself. 7 years removed from comfort. 7 years, the greatest wealth of time spent with your own mind until it stops fighting you. 7 years I paid the cost, and I came back renewed.
I've been right about most things, say that without apology. I've built enough to know the shape of what I know. But there was one time, one specific winter in my late 30s, where I was wrong in a way that took 5 years to show. I thought I understood a man because I'd studied him for seasons. I thought the reading I had done was close enough to truth. I acted on that confidence without the margin for the error, and it cost me more than I had planned to lose. The one time I was wrong was the most expensive lesson. The one time I was wrong was the most useful session of everything I've learned in 40 years of careful moving. The one time I was wrong is the thing I'm still improving from. I didn't hide from it, I sat inside the consequence directly. I didn't make excuses for the calculation that had failed. I took apart exactly where the thinking had gone sideways, and I rebuilt the whole methodology from what it had unveiled. I'm telling you this plainly because the man I wanna be is honest about the limits of what he thought he knew. The most dangerous thing walking is a man who's never been wrong, who hasn't built the muscle of accounting for the cost. Don't be that man. The one time I was wrong taught me how to be more right. The one time I was wrong turned the error into light. I don't celebrate the mistake, but I honor what it gave. The one time I was wrong made me someone worth the page.